She looked at me with those tired, beautiful eyes, the kind that have seen too much and still hope for more. The living room was dimly lit by a single lamp, casting soft shadows on the walls filled with framed photos of her life, travels, family, moments frozen in time. We had just finished dinner, a simple pasta I cooked because she insisted on hosting after our third date. The air was thick with unspoken words, the kind that build up when two people are circling something deeper. She sipped her wine slowly, then set the glass down and said it quietly, almost like a confession. I haven't had a man in my house for 2 years. Her voice carried the weight of loneliness, of choices made to protect her heart after the last one shattered it. I felt the words land between us like a challenge and an invitation all at once. My heart raced a little because I knew this was a moment that could change everything. I didn't want to rush, didn't want to say something cheap or predictable, so I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and looked right into her eyes. A small smile tugged at my lips because the truth was simple and bold. I said, "Well, you've got me now." Not as a boast, but as a promise. The room went quiet for a second, and I wondered if I had overstepped, if I had moved too fast into the space she had guarded so carefully. Her lips parted slightly, surprise flickering across her face before it softened into something warmer. She didn't laugh it off or change the subject like I half expected. Instead, she tilted her head and studied me, really studied me, as if trying to see whether I meant it. 2 years is a long time to keep walls up, to eat alone, to sleep in the middle of the bed because no one else claimed a side. I could almost feel the echo of that solitude in the neatness of her home, in the way everything had its perfect place, untouched by another person's chaos. I waited, giving her the space to respond. I didn't fill the silence with jokes or explanations. I just held her gaze and let the words settle. Finally, she let out a soft breath, almost a laugh, and said, "That's quite a statement." Her tone wasn't dismissive. It was curious, maybe even hopeful. She picked up her wine again, but this time her fingers lingered on the stem, tracing it slowly. I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes, wondering if she could trust this, if she could let someone in again. I nodded and said, "It's not just a line, I mean it." Because I did. From the moment we met, there was something about her that felt like coming home to a place I hadn't known I was looking for. She was strong, funny, kind in a quiet way that didn't need applause. And after hearing her admit that vulnerability, I wanted to be the person who proved that not every man would leave, that some of us stay if we're lucky enough to be allowed. She set the glass down again and leaned back on the couch, tucking one leg under her. 2 years, she repeated, more to herself than to me. It wasn't by choice at first. After he left, I just needed time. Then time turned into habit. I got good at being alone. Too good, maybe. Her honesty hit me hard. It takes courage to admit that independence can sometimes feel like isolation wearing a brave face. As soon as I left the house, I felt a huge wave of relief, but also disgust and confusion. I walked home fast, replaying everything in my head. The hand on my knee, the compliments, the whispering. It all felt so wrong. I didn't know who to tell at first. Should I tell Jake? That could ruin our friendship. Should I tell my parents? I was embarrassed even thinking about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept wondering if she does this to other friends of Jake's or if it was just me. I felt guilty for some reason, like maybe I encouraged it by being polite, but I know that's not true. "You're bold," she said, shaking her head lightly. Most guys would have made a joke or backed off. I shrugged and admitted. I thought about it, but jokes felt wrong. This moment felt important. She nodded slowly, as if agreeing that yes, this was important. The air between us changed, charged with possibility instead of hesitation. She reached for a throw pillow and hugged it to her chest. A small shield maybe, or just comfort. It's scary, you know? Letting someone in after so long. The house feels different with you here. Louder, warmer. I smiled at that. Good different, I hope. She laughed softly, a sound that was already starting to love. Yeah, good different. I told her about my own stretches of being alone, not to one-up her story, but to share the common ground. I've had my own empty apartments, nights where takeout and Netflix were the only company. It's safe, but it's not enough forever. She listened intently, her guard lowering with every word. Vulnerability shared is vulnerability halved, they say, and I felt it happening between us. She uncrossed her legs and turned to face me fully. So what happens now that I've got you? She asked, echoing my words with a teasing lilt. I grinned. Whatever you want. We can talk until dawn, or I can go home and text you good night. No pressure. But my eyes probably gave away that I hoped she'd choose the first option. She considered it, biting her lip in that way that made my pulse quicken. Then she said, "Stay a while longer." It wasn't a grand declaration, but it felt huge, an opening. I nodded, relieved and happy. We refilled our glasses and moved the conversation to lighter things. Favorite movies, worst dates, dreams we hadn't told many people. Hours slipped by unnoticed. The lamp burned low, and outside the window, the night deepened. She told me stories about the photos on the wall, about trips taken solo that taught her strength. I told her about my family, my quirks, the music that always lifts my mood. Laughter came easier. Silences felt comfortable instead of heavy. At some point, her head rested lightly on my shoulder. Not planned, just natural. I didn't move, afraid to break the spell. She whispered, "This feels nice." I whispered back, "It really does." No rush, no expectation, just two people rediscovering that connection doesn't have to hurt. When the conversation slowed, she lifted her head and looked at me again. "Thank you for not making it weird, for just being here." I brushed the strand of hair from her face, the first real touch of the night. "Thank you for letting me be here." Her eyes closed for a second, savoring it. We talked about what having me now could mean. Slow steps, no titles yet, just honesty and time together. She admitted she was rusty at this, and I admitted I was nervous too. Fear shared became excitement shared. The future felt open, not scary. As the clock ticked past midnight, she yawned, and I knew it was time. I stood and offered my hand to help her up. She took it, and we lingered there, hands clasped. "I'll text you when I get home," I promised. She smiled sleepily. "You better." At the door, she hugged me, tight, real, lingering. "Tonight was good," she said into my shoulder. I hugged her back. "The first of many, I hope." She pulled back, eyes shining. "Me too." I stepped into the cool night air, heart full, replaying every moment. Behind me, the door closed softly, but I knew it wouldn't stay closed for long. Not to me, anyway. She had let me in, literally and figuratively, and that felt like the beginning of something worth building carefully. Driving home, I smiled at the memory of her voice saying those words, and my reply that changed everything. "Well, you've got me now." Simple words, big meaning. 2 years of an empty house ended tonight. Not with fireworks, but with quiet courage and the promise kept in the making. And I couldn't wait to see what tomorrow would bring for us.